Welcome to the Cepheus revolution for Terra. This time I'm going to talk about the great beauty of Classic Traveler, which I think is one of the best designed role-playing games and a great inspiration for modern game design, even now 40 years after its release. Now, what is so beautiful about this game? One of the best things about it is how simple, deceptively simple, are all its elements. For example, you could write a character in 3 rows of text, not a whole character sheet or a huge paragraph of stat block like in D20 games, but in one small 2 rows of text. Only that. And it gives you everything you need to play that character or that NPC simply like that. For example, you have the UPP, which is the Universal Personality Profile, which is a string of 6 digits, which is very easy to learn how to read, which shows you all the characteristics like abilities or attributes in other games of your character. Very simply, 6 digits or letters because it's a pseudo hexadecimal. And now, apart from it, you have skills. Again, each skill is a word and a number, which is its rating. And you have your character's background. For example, you were in the Navy for 3 terms, each term is 4 years, and your age, and whatever possessions you have. Now, this is enough for you to play the character. Of course, if you want to make your life a bit easier, you could add a somewhat larger character sheet or index card. An index card is enough. And in every part of this, you simply write your weapons, modifiers, and things like that. It's not much. Your inventory shouldn't be much. It's not a game where you list every little piece of simple gear, like you have this kind of that number of torches or whatever. You could write it, but it's not very critical. It is your character. One of the simplest, most beautiful, most concentrated ways to write a character or an NPC. For NPCs, it's even better. Now, a starship. It's only one paragraph in English, with some numbers, but mostly in English, describing your ship. Designing a ship when you know how to do it, which takes 1 or 2 times you do it, and it gives you everything. In 20 minutes, you write an entire starship from scratch, which is one paragraph, again on an index card. No need for complex calculations, no need for scientific calculator or spreadsheet or other things like that. 20 minutes you write, you simply adding simple numbers, and you have a starship in one paragraph. Now, generating a character. Also very simple. In 5 minutes, you have a character. An entire character in 5 minutes. And it gives you incredible complexity because character generation is procedural. That is, you go through terms of service in military or other services, each of them 4 years, and you resolve it. If you have survived, by the way, you could die in character generation, and if you got promoted or commissioned, and which skill you get. Now, once you do it a few times, you do it very quickly in 5 minutes. Now you die, it's not very big deal. You simply spend a few more minutes generating a new character, and your old character has died in glorious combat for Terra. Now, in 5 minutes character generation, which is much, much faster than a few modern systems, you could spend half an hour, even an hour, like in Shadowrun, for example, on generating a character. Generating alien beasts. Again, procedural, takes a few minutes, 1 to 3 rows of text. That's it. You have an alien beast ready for play. Again, simple, beautiful. No need for complications, yet it gives you great complexity. Again, generating worlds with great complexity, with great stimulation of your imagination. You simply roll a few die rolls procedurally. You generate a world which is starport kind, which is environment, with government and how restrictive its laws are, how many people live there in a few minutes. Now, of course, it's not everything you need to know for the world, but it sparks your imagination. Afterwards, what you do is write a few notes. Again, the word is one row of text. You could list an entire sector, which is a few hundred words, in one table on one page, and you have everything. A few hundred words, shorthanded. Few other games work in such shorthand. Everything like that is simple. And the weapon system. Of course, some people say it's very complex because you have a matrix of weapon modifiers compared to the armor and range. But when you look at it, 2 pages of relatively simple matrix, you simply locate it, you could have even have it on your character sheet for your particular weapon. And you have great complexity because it's not only each weapon being more powerful or less powerful, but certain weapons are effective against certain kinds of armor or in certain ranges. Now you have to choose the optimal tool for the job, and it's not that the same weapon will be good everywhere, except for a few cases when you go to book 4 mercenary, which is a bit too complicated in some cases. They can simply all the military weapons of huge plasma cannons, which against personnel will automatically kill them. Unfortunately, it doesn't have the vehicle rules to make them effective because it's an anti-material weapon. But again, great complexity in very, very small amount of rules. This is very beautiful game design because again, it's very concentrated, it's zen-like. Instead of putting huge amount of tables and huge character sheet, if you look at a few modern games, and you have 3 page character sheet, even for relatively simple 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, it's 2 pages, because you have spells, and you have all kinds of powers, and you have to list everything. In Traveler, for example, you don't have to list the skills you don't have. You simply list them. Completely beautiful design. I see it as an example, which I have to keep in mind when I'm designing these things. Because this is how a good game is designed. Not in its huge amount of options, but in how to express as much complexity in as little rules and stats as possible. Thank you for listening.